Lately, I found myself wondering about something, spending great lengths of time pondering one singular, simple question. When did partisanship so completely run amok? When did it so utterly replace any pre-existing notions of decency, of dignity, of principles? When did it become not just unsurprising, not just common, not just expected, but dignified, valiant, to discard everyone and everyone else in the name of your party, of your goal? When did sacrificing all of your principles, even ones that you may have been fighting for years up until this point, as soon as you think it somehow serves yourself, your friends, your allies, or whatever you may be fighting for, when did that become fine? When did that become normal? And perhaps more pertinently, why? Why has it become so widespread? Why has it become so common? It wasn't always like this, at least not for most people. Later in this video, I'm going to be going after many Hillary supporters as excellent examples of this behavior, because they absolutely are. And I'm sure that if this video gains any significant traction, I'm going to get accused of being a Trump lover, some neo-fascist that just cannot see all the things that they're doing, because I'm only going after the Hillary supporters. That's nonsense. Everyone can see that the Trump supporters are absolutely acting like this. They are being unbelievably tribalistic, many of the prominent ones at least. But nobody cares about this. We already knew they were like this. There have always been extremists on the fringes. That is not new. That is not noteworthy. And so nobody comments on it. What is new, what is unusual, is that the people who used to be the centrists seem to be turning increasingly extremist. People who I used to respect and still do respect to a degree, but certainly not in politics anymore, have shown themselves to be massive hypocrites as soon as they feel like it'll serve their goals. And so they ostracize, and so they demonize, they dehumanize, because the other side, the opponent, the enemy, is now evil. They are the bad guys, just like how you're the good guys. Because real life is now just a story in some grand epic narrative, a drama, with you as the protagonist and the enemy as the antagonist. And so everything you do is already perfectly justified. Of course it is. Per definition, it is the right thing because you are the good guys. After all, Frodo and Sam and Aragorn, they didn't much worry about the feelings of the minions of Sauron, did they now? They didn't care about how the orcs felt. So why should you care about how your actions may affect potential Trump voters? Why should you feel bad if you dox them, if you insult them, if you shout meaningless slurs at them? Why should you even bother to research it? If it's wrong, who cares? It probably isn't, because they deserve all of it anyway. They are horrible. You are just. You are valiant. Always, every time. No need for discourse, you've already settled it. It doesn't take much research to see what the consequences of this have been. This, quite simply, has been the death of intellectual pursuits. The death of debate. The recent Russian hacking scandal is perhaps the best example of this out of all of them. People who have been adamant in calling the CIA liars for decades suddenly trust every word that they say, even though they still have no sources, all because it serves their interests, it serves their ideology. The principles that they have been fighting for literally tens of years, they do not matter, and they don't even need to acknowledge the fact that they've changed their view here. They will never acknowledge it, because why should they? This isn't about honesty. This isn't about any of that. All that matters is if it makes their opponents look bad. It doesn't even matter to them if it's true. They don't care. As long as other people think it's true, as long as it hurts the reputation of their ideological opponents, they are happy, they are glad, and they would certainly do it again, and they will do it again, no doubt. And they won't be called out on it. The amount of people who have fallen for this, willingly or otherwise, is astounding. It is beyond belief, and it is only possible because they simply do not care. Because we have reached a point where it doesn't matter. And perhaps the worst part of all of this is that it is inherently auto-reinforcing. To an extremist left-winger, anybody who's even slightly right of them is wrong. They're bad, they're evil. Again, they are the opponents and the enemies because they do not share their ideology. And so if you're somewhere near the center, you'll find the same treatment from both sides. The right-wingers will call you a filthy communist, while the left-wingers will call you fascists. If you stay at the center, while this mentality prevails, while partisanship is dominant, you have no friends anywhere. And so you will be forced to the extremes. You will have to go to the extreme right or to the extreme left, otherwise everyone will shout you down. And thus, another person participating in this selfsame activity is born inevitably. There can be no rational debate, there can be no rational discourse. Everyone is forced to the extremes or left in the cold, and that's if they don't get actively bombarded. Probably the best recent example of this is that of Bernie Sanders supporters during the latest presidential election. Time and again, they were talked down to, harassed and smeared, not so much by the Republicans, who you might have expected to be their main opponent, but by Clinton's own supporters. Even to this day, Clinton's supporters continue to mention the Bernie supporters time and again as one of, if not the primary factors in their loss. The crime that they're guilty of here is quite simply one of wrongthink. They may be fellow Democrats, but they're not the right kind of Democrat, and that makes them worse than worthless. I've been using the US election here as my primary example, simply by virtue of its high-profile nature, but this is far from an exclusively American issue. Even here in Denmark, members of DF, the Danish People's Party, are commonly portrayed as nothing but right-wing radicals, racists not worthy of talking to, while they in turn portray members of left-wing parties like Alternative and Enhedslisten as wannabe communists, again scarcely worthy of your attention. Ultimately, the issue here lies not so much with the right or the left wing, as it does with extremism in general, which makes the whole situation quite a lot easier to understand when one considers it in relation to the drastic increases in both right and left-wing extremism our political parties throughout the West have undergone in recent years. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't really matter when this started or how it started. What matters is that it's happened. Partisanship is on the rise, extremism is on the rise, and it's not going to stop by itself. These people cannot be debated out of their position. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be argued with. Their entire ideological positions, their entire framework of their mind, of the way they think, is based around not being able to do these things, is based around being completely unwilling to listen to the other part. And so, that doesn't leave us with a whole lot of choices. We cannot talk to them, we cannot debate with them, and we cannot engage with them, and understandably so. Currently, these extremists are in the perfect position. We cannot criticize them and get away with them. They are untouchable. So why on earth would they engage with us willingly? That would only serve to weaken them. That would only serve to hurt them. Obviously, anything we do against them is going to be without their cooperation. But that doesn't mean we don't have to do it. They are going to protest as loudly as they can, but if we want to reverse the rise in partisanship, by extension, if we want to reverse the rise in extremism, we are going to have to grab them, and we're going to have to drag them, kicking and screaming, from these decadent dens that they have carved for themselves in our political system. And the air is going to be full of the cries of racism, sexism, patriarchy. It's going to be deafening. But we are going to have to do it, because if we leave them there, things are going to get so much worse. We simply do not have a choice. At least not if we genuinely value rational conversation and debate. If we want to be able to talk, not scream, about issues in politics, this has to be done.